Hi, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Liv.
And this is EV Explorer. Today, we have a Chevy Bolt EUV, and we're going to give you our first impressions.
So let's go. So we have this vehicle for a week. I'm actually writing an article for a Girl's Guide to Cars on what it's like living with this car for a week. So if you're interested, we'll put the link down below. But this is the 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV. It is the more SUV version of this range. There's a Chevy Bolt EV. This one has a slightly bigger schnoz. It's slightly longer than the EV. The EV is 163 inches long and this one is 170. So it's still nimble though. It's still nimble and it's still petite, and it is a really cute looking vehicle. This is white and it actually has the red line package. So let's sneak under this charging cable and I'll show you what that looks like. I don't know why we had to do that. We could have gone around the other way. It doesn't matter. The red line package, it's about $495, and you get really simple little aesthetic details like this red stripe on the mirror here and the fact that the mirror is black at all. On the interior, you get a leather black seating with red stitching.
Let's take a closer look at that. Nice red stitching. I love the red stitching. I had that on my old WRX. Subtle feature, but it looks really nice.
And you can see that on the doors too.
And then my favorite little red addition is on the wheel. It's not much, but it's pretty cool. The brake calipers are not red, but you have this red stripe there added.
And the black wheels themselves. There's one other little red thing, which is just a touch that the logo on the back is red and black, which I actually do like. I do like that. So since we're here on the rear, we can check out this more SUV body style. We got a little bit more raised of a roof line here. You would think that that would give you a lot more cargo space than the EV, which is more petite in the rear, but it doesn't. Why can I never find any button to open a vehicle? There we go. It's not powered, but it's okay. It's like assisted. Nice, not too bad. So there's actually about 16 cubic feet of cargo space, and there's a really nice there's actually a really nice spacious chunk over here. So you can put charging cable, whatever it is, really not bad. And obviously lift that up as well.
And it actually can remove that completely if you needed to.
I would like that, yeah. And then let's check out the rear seats actually. This is something that I'm really impressed with, is how much space there is in this vehicle. Like, okay, so I'm 5'5", but I obviously have a prosthesis, which doesn't tuck out the way very much, but I'd actually be comfortable in this vehicle. We should get a really tall person to sit in here though, because I'm not too far from the roof, even considering this is an SUV type roof line. I feel like I'm quite high, I'm quite close to the roof. What do you think?
Yeah, that's when I sat in it just a few minutes ago, I was like, it does feel like there's not as much headroom for somebody like me that's 5'6". I wonder if, like a 6 foot something, whatever, got in there.
Yeah, so you have the leg room of a 6 foot something person, but maybe not the headroom. So if you have a short torso, you're good. And
your legs aren't scrunched up, because like one of the things in a lot of compact cars, the floor, like the seat is low or the floor is high, so your knees are really high. It feels like you're scrunched up, but this feels fairly good. I'm gonna hop into the front.
Okay.
And you can get me from the back. But
Angry Ninja is what I call it.
The welcome sound.
I think it's really cute.
I'm gonna hit start. It says hit brake to start. I really don't want to do that, but anyways, because we're still charging. But overall, it's a fairly decent cockpit or cabin area. The cup holders, one of Liv's pet peeves. She likes side-by-side cup holders, but we're sort of closer together, so there's no room for that. They're one in front of the other. Your gear shifter is down here. They're like push buttons or switches. I'm not going to do any of those because we're still connected to charging. You do have some manual controls here for like your climate control to adjust the temperature, or the ventilated seats, which is actually something I forget to mention, but this has ventilated seats. Let me turn those down so we don't have the fan noise. Oh, it's not
and to turn
now.
it down, you go up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's really cool. If you can see, there's a red arrow and a blue arrow. So if you go up, you initiate the heat. And if you go down, you initiate the cold. So hit up. So now you've initiated the heat, but now you have to press down to make it go away. Yeah, so it's weird.
It's quirky, but I would get used to it. Like,
oh, for sure. And it's very easy, and that is something that you could definitely do without looking, which is cool. And the controls are the same for the entire panel on that lower bar. So the fan and the temperature, it's all up and down kind of things.
Yeah, and what's sort of cool is that you can go over here, and actually easiest way is if you hit climate, you have some more climate functions up here on the main screen, but your quick access stuff is very accessible right here. I won't go into details on this because I know it's hard to see on the GoPro screen, but you know, you have your normal apps, you have your navigation is quick to see. We go back here. The 360 camera is actually
my favorite feature.
Very nice. I forget some of the features. Yeah, so now I can zoom in and whatever. I do like the 360 camera on this a lot. Let's see, let me hit the home button again. It does have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Let me tap on my CarPlay. Fairly decent sized screen here. It's not as big as some, other EVs that have like the 15-inch screens, but 10.2 seems like it's a decent size. It's integrated into the dash, so it looks fairly built in and seamless. Has some manual controls. Still has a driver's display here. So overall, I really like the layout of this. The one negative that I would have to say, not actually even a huge negative, it's just that it takes me a while to get used to, but these buttons here, you guys can see them very clearly, but me sitting here as the driver, like I can't see where any of those are at. So it's very hard to like figure out which one is which. Just based from like my view, but of course, after you get used to the vehicle, I'm sure you can, up here is that one, down here is that one. It also feels like it's almost in the way of the windshield wiper stalk over here to hit the volume control. But other than that, I really like how it's sort of integrated. The vents up here are a little bit far away, but the ones on the left-hand side by the driver window, that's fairly easily reachable. Overall, really nice layout. It does have one pedal mode, and to turn that on and off, it's literally just a push button here, which I like having that quick availability. If you turn off one pedal mode, on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, behind the steering wheel, there's a paddle so that you can do regen even with one pedal off. And if you have one pedal on, it's just like a slightly boosted regen mode as well, so you can add a little bit in there. Other than that, I mean, it's still a fairly typical layout for whatever car you have. You have your driver's assistance buttons over here, and your media and phone control buttons over here. It does have the buttons behind, so like you can control the volume using your right hand by pushing buttons behind the steering wheel. And you can adjust the station using the left hand with the same type of buttons behind the left. But overall, fairly good layout for driving.
So behind the steering wheel, like Patrick said, there are those buttons to just tap the volume up and down. So if you do that, Patrick, you can see on the screen a single increment.
Because everything's off.
Oh, it's not, because everything's off. So you'll see on the screen a single increment of audio adjustment, but if you wanted to adjust the audio more dramatically, you can do that with those dials that are a little hard to see, but it's cool to have that option. So if you grab the dial that's, as you can see there, it's going up in increments or down. It's quite annoying because you have to tap, 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 and typically
versus
I would like it to be big jumps in volume. Yeah, versus the dials. So cool thing though, so yeah, you can adjust the volume with that top dial, and then the bottom dial you can actually use to navigate the screen. So as you can see, if you scroll that, it allows you to navigate the screen. So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when the road is bumpy, I find it really hard to touch the right thing. So I like the idea, especially as a driver, that you could just go click, click, click. Do you feel a tangible click, Patrick?
You do.
Okay, so you could get used to being like, all right, it's 3 clicks to blah, or whatever.
But it is sort of like, because I was trying to go over 1, and it's like, whoops, whoops, whoops.
Yeah.
But it really is, I mean, I like having that option versus trying to touch, because there are times, I mean, we've all done that where you're like, whoop.
All the time. Yeah, I really like that option. Like, why not? Those buttons are there. I realize you guys probably can't even see. No, you can see both the buttons. So like those buttons are there. No, I mean the dials. The dials are there, and the center of the dials are buttons. It's great to make them useful, and it's something that is static. So that to scroll between the pages, if you go to the music, you can also scroll between the channels using that. So
and you can click.
Yeah, to select it. So, and then the same click to select happens in the volume in the
to
top
turn it
one.
on and off, yeah.
So that's really cool. That's a nice feature. If you're someone who likes buttons and likes a screen, you have both options here, which is really, really cool. Another thing that is really cool and premium, we can see your face there, Patrick. Hi. is
that's bright.
This power roof here. Now, I think that this is only available in the EUV, and this is an upgrade that's part of their $2,500 package, but you can open the sunroof.
Oh,
how cool is that?
Extra bright.
Extra, extra bright. It's a sunny day in SoCal, even though there's snow in the mountains, but what a cool option to have. Completely unnecessary, really, but such a cool option, and that package is $2,500, and it does come with a Bose sound system and upgraded infotainment system and all that stuff. So it's not just that, but it's still pretty cool.
This is where I think this car excels. We're just driving around town. We're in Carlsbad, California, heading up to Oceanside, just sort of cruising around. We're checking things out, just sort of seeing how the car, handles in normal day-to-day functionality. And, like I was just saying, this is where I think it excels. It's a compact, relatively small vehicle. Pretty zippy for going around in traffic. We'll let these people cross the road that were a bit nervous. Still could be quite useful for relatively decent road trips. I was just looking yesterday, for example, and to go to Las Vegas, it would just be like just under an hour of charging between here and Las Vegas. I didn't have the armrest down, which sounds like a lot because I think it's about 300 and something miles. So you could look at it as like, that's a lot of charging just to go that far. But at the same time, if you incorporate like you stop for lunch, then you stop, you get lunch, you charge, or hula hoop. But the idea is like, if you add like a little bit of a decent stop, and that compares to our actual car, which is a Mustang Mach-E, it says like you'll need about 20 minutes of charging, I think it was, maybe slightly less, like 18 minutes.
Normally we take longer than the charge.
Yeah, so if we were stopping for lunch and we're going to charge at the same time, I'm not going to eat in 20 minutes. So I would charge extra, but if I were looking at like which one could I get to Vegas, in which amount of time, if I'm incorporating a lunch stop, then they would be the same. Granted, if I were in a rush, the Mach-E would be, I think it ended up being like 40 minutes faster overall in the route planning. But I don't think that's what most people are going to necessarily do a lot of in this car. And just driving around like this, it's perfect. We just went to breakfast with a friend. Very easy to find parking because it's compact and small.
Yeah, so by the way, for specs, so this is the 2023 Bolt EUV. It has 247 miles of range.
Which is really good.
Yeah, it's great. The Bolt EV has 259 miles of range, which is great. I mean, that's close to, is that the standard range Mach-E?
The Mach-E GT Performance Edition like we have is 260 miles.
Yeah.
You can get Mach-E's over 300, but some of the lower ones are like...
Oh, dog.
Whoa.
Oh, don't get your dog squished. It's responsive. It brakes just fine when dogs step out into the street. But... okay, so we've had this car since Wednesday. It is Saturday, and we've been trying to drive it down. We haven't charged. We've been driving around doing normal things. We went to Lowe's, we went to the grocery store, like all your normal everyday stuff. And now we are trying to burn like 20 miles.
20 miles.
So we can do a charging test. So that is a good few days of us as people who work from home, just driving the vehicle without charging it, doing normal person stuff. For me, I'm just going to say this right now. I think this would be the perfect companion for the Mach-E, the perfect companion for a long range EV. This is a really great city driver. It's like Patrick said, it's small and nimble. It's about 15 inches shorter than the Mach-E. Okay, go in front of me then. So it's about 15 inches shorter. It's a little narrower, right?
It's slightly narrower,
yeah.
It's shorter, and
1 inch less tall or whatever.
1 inch shorter.
Yeah, but it's really perfect for city driving. Yeah, I really like this car, and I like the way it drives. So for me personally, I like to have some coast. I'm not in one pedal right now. I'm in normal 2-pedal mode, and that's how I like to drive, and the 2-pedal mode is great. It feels like this is an excellent vehicle to transition from an ICE vehicle to an EV. Like, it's not an overly performance-oriented driving style. We both discussed how the steering wheel feels a little chill, a little
It's
soft.
like the Mach-E in whisper mode.
Yeah.
Just a regular feeling steering wheel. It's not like a sporty, tight feeling steering wheel.
It's very unintimidating. This is a really unintimidating first EV to get into in multiple ways. And it has a bunch of stuff. Now, granted, this is upgraded. So the Bolt EUV out of the gate, I think, is like $31,000. And this one has about $6,000 of extras in it, some of which are really, really nice. So the panoramic roof or whatever is similar to the ID4. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will open it.
There are two different controls
if it doesn't get too much sun from the view of the camera.
And I'm actually cold. I know this is California and I feel crazy saying it, but I'm going to turn on the heated steering wheel. How cool is that? And the heated seats.
I am going to close it because we're getting some weird sun into the camera.
So we have ventilated and heated seats and heated steering wheel and 2 separate power controls on the roof. And this isn't like the budget EV. Now, granted, that the package for that is about $2,500. That gets you the roof, the upgraded navigation system, and the Bose sound system. I think that's a worthy upgrade, personally. What about you?
I mean, it depends on what you want. I think we might choose to get something like that, but I don't think it's like a necessary thing to actually add. You know how like there's sometimes when they'll sell packages for their car and you're sort of like, well, I have to get that package because without it, it's not even worth it, you know, to get the car, or it's just like really detracts from the value of the car. I think either way, it's good value. The car is good. Like, you don't need, I mean, we got it closed right now. You don't need the sunroof and the opening.
It's just fun.
But I think it is, that's actually a decent value as well. But I wouldn't say like, oh, you gotta get this.
You know what
package.
I think you do I wouldn't say you have to get anything ever, but, and I don't know if the upgraded navigation system is part of this, but the 360 camera when you park
super
is
useful.
so nice. And the fact that that is something that you get in this budget vehicle too is pretty epic.
Yeah, and it comes with GM's version of advanced driver assistance with a hands-off system, and it's called Super Cruise. What that means is on some pre-mapped roads, which is actually a lot, so like I-5, like all your interstates for the most part, you activate it and it will handle the lane centering and the speed for you so that you can go completely hands off, and it's monitoring your eyes as you watch the road. And as long as you watch the road, it'll stay active. It'll deactivate or let you know that it's deactivating for certain things like construction zone or the rain is too heavy or whatever. So it's not a complete. Oh, that was collision assistance.
And that was on the left side.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I saw that.
I didn't see. Yeah, I wasn't watching. I was watching the people braking. But it's a like use it Thursday. We had a camera glitch, so we had to stop for a second. But we turned around. We're heading back toward Carlsbad. If people don't,
I was like, they're so far out. I'll let them go.
Yeah. But yeah, Super Cruise is great. It also has some other, of course, safety features. Like we saw the collision avoidance. It has the one I like is the rear cross traffic. So when you are backing out of a parking space, like a perpendicular pull-in parking space, it's looking to see is there any traffic coming from either direction. We'll let you know. Very nice little features like that are part of the safety features in the car. So it has a lot of, these upgraded features that, I think make it a nice vehicle. The center screen is 10.2 inches. It is not like in a lot of EVs, this big obtrusive thing that's sort of sticking out. It feels like it's fairly integrated. I like that it has Android Auto and CarPlay. It is wireless as well, so you don't have to plug in to run those. Of course, like a lot of those wireless systems, it can work. I haven't actually checked to see like how well does it work. And what I mean by that is like in our car, it'll work doing the wireless CarPlay, but it can sort of drain the battery quite a bit. And the wireless charger doesn't keep up with as fast as it's using the battery. So there are times when I rather just plug in our car. I haven't checked that on this one, but that's just something like it's really sort of minor. Around town, it's not that big of a deal. But if I'm doing like a 6-hour drive or 8-hour drive, I notice my battery's going out quicker than the wireless charger can keep up. So, anyways, side note on that, I guess.
But ultimately, although this is like, we won't call it a first drive, we've been driving it for a couple of days, we do want to get full impressions of this vehicle, but the fact that this is pretty much the most affordable new EV that you can get into on the market, and it has like all the bells and whistles really, but like not fancy, right? So we got the whole big screen, but there's no fancy ambient lighting. It doesn't look all shiny and huge or whatever, but it has everything that you need. And even the instrument cluster has everything that you need, except a battery percentage. It just has a mileage estimate. So I'm paying attention to traffic, but what does it say, Patrick?
46 miles remaining. Yeah, it's a little tight traffic here, tight lanes. Yeah, 46. I was looking, I was like, I thought there's got to be a way to change it to percentage, which is just something like, for us, we were looking at testing out to see how fast it charges from 10 to 80%. I don't know when we're going to hit 10%. So our goal is we're going to get it down to 25 miles because it has 247 miles range. And then we'll do a charging test that way. But it does have a range. So it says max 54, minimum 37. So it's obviously doing some sort of estimation based on your driving style, your braking, your speed, right? And it's sort of saying like, and the temperature. Go get on the freeway and do 80 miles an hour, you're probably
we'll
getting closer to 37
miles. Yeah.
If you take it nice and easy, turn off the AC and the heated seats.
No, I don't want to.
it will probably be closer to 54. So, and of course, when we were higher up in range where it was like 220 miles, it was saying up to 270 down to, I think, 180 or something like that.
Yeah, that was definitely quite a big range. But we all know if you're into EVs, you get a really big range with your battery, with how much you get a big range, a big distance in the amount of range that you can get, right?
You get a range in your range.
A range in your range. I know. I'm like, why is this word the same? So it's based on driving, temperature, speed, all that stuff. So why do we think in percentages? It's become nature now, especially because we drive a Mach-E, that you get battery percentage. So it's become second nature to look at what percentage are we in. Like if I think about the time that we were most daring when we pulled into a charging station, I think it was 6%.
Yeah, I think the lowest we've come in is 6%.
But what does that matter? Who knows what percent is what miles? Yeah. What does any of this matter? Maybe it is better to think in a mileage range. Like you should start thinking about getting a charge now kind of range, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we did do some testing to see, like, does this add EV charging stops? I can double check, but when I did a route to Las Vegas from here, it did not add the charging stops. So that's sort of a downside. I want it to be built into the system. I'll double check and make sure maybe I wasn't doing something correctly. And if so, I'll note that down in the description. But I just didn't do it straight off. But that, there are ways around that. There's a Better Route Planner is the best example. It's an app as well as a website where you can put in that you have a Chevy Bolt and put what percentage battery you're starting at, and it'll do the EV route planning for you and tell you where you need to stop and charge and for how long. So it makes road trips fairly easy if you are going to take the, like a road trip in this thing. Again, I think a lot of people will be using this for a lot of city around the town driving. And if that is the case, then you really don't need to worry about that stuff. You charge at home. A lot of people, they first get an EV and they start charging, just like they did with a gas car. They'll wait till, the weekend or Monday night, and that's when they are going to charge their car, and they do it like once a week. But it's actually not a bad idea to just plug in every night when you get home from work. And you can set charging schedules so that it charges only at the cheap times. Like here in California where we're at, it's cheap from midnight to, I think, 6 a.m. So we can set the charging schedule. Every night at midnight, it'll charge, and do that for a couple of reasons. One, it's just nice to know that it's always going to be ready, and if I don't have to worry about I forgot it. And then the other thing is if we always are starting out with 80% charge, if there's some emergency or something like that, like a couple of weeks ago when Liv was in the hospital and I was driving back and forth and I didn't have to worry about I didn't charge and I'm down to 15% battery and I should have charged. It's you just wake up every morning and it's 80%. So that's, I think, a huge advantage over gas cars. And one of the reasons that I love having an EV is basically knowing every morning I'm going to wake up to a full tank. And I say full because most EVs, you don't want to charge to 100%. The Bolt is no exception.
And barring the introduction of the LFP batteries, right?
Yeah, there's certain battery chemistries, like some Teslas have, Ford is going to start using as well. The Bolt doesn't have it, and most EVs don't have it. So they recommend only charging to 80, 85% on a daily basis. And if you have a road trip or a bigger journey, of course you can charge to 100%. You just don't want to do it all the time. You don't want to do it all the time, and you don't want to charge to 100% and let it sit for days. So those are, you could consider them downsides, but in the reality, it doesn't affect you at all because you charge to 80%. And you still have 200 miles of range. And even if you have a 75-mile commute each way, you would still be fine with 80% and just charge up at night. And it does take a while to charge when you're charging at home, but you're sleeping. If you get over 25 miles of range, I think, with this car charging at home. So 5 hours and you're good,
Yeah. As far as the way this car feels, it doesn't feel too small and it doesn't feel too big.
It feels just right. It's like
you can go there.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Yeah, no, it really is. Because the Bolt EV looks very, very small, right? That is a really popular brunch spot. My goodness. So it looks, this is the EUV. The Bolt EV looks like a very petite car. The EUV looks a bit more like an SUV, and it actually feels like it. You're sitting more upright. By the way, another big bell and whistle on this, power seat adjustments and everything. You can tilt the seats, you can tilt the rear seat, so the base of the seat, the rear of the seat, up and down.
Heated and ventilated.
Heated and ventilated. So there's an absolute ton that you can do with the seats. I'm just going to go.
The passenger side doesn't have it's manual adjustments, which is not as big of a deal, but just so you know.
And there's no memory setting on the driver's seat. So when Patrick and I get in, we have to adjust the seat, which is a bummer. But once again, you're getting power seat adjustment on a pretty much budget vehicle. We kind of know what we each like with seating, so we know what to adjust. I don't know, how much would it cost to add a memory button? Probably a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the additional like chip module or whatever, but and that's that's the thing. There are some compromises in buying a Bolt, but really it's for the most part, the one of the reasons we wanted to make this video is that I don't think there are a lot of compromises. I think a lot of people sometimes want to say like the Bolt is the cheapest EV you can get. And they want to make it like you're compromising because you're not buying like a Tesla Model Y that's way more expensive, or ID4 or Mach-E.
Used Model 3.
Yeah. So there, it's like you're getting all these compromises because you're buying the cheapest. But I'm like, really, there's not a lot of compromises. The biggest downside out of the biggest compromise will be the charging speed, and mainly, it's like, you can talk about the technical numbers, but it's 50 kilowatt charging speed. And basically that's how fast it can charge when you're at one of those road trip chargers. And it will take longer on this car than on the Mach-E, probably about 3 times as long overall. And then compared to something like the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai, it's probably like 6 times slower because it can charge, optimally at like 200 kilowatt. So I guess that's really 4 times.
But
faster.
You keep saying city driving, like this car is good for city driving. But I want to ask you guys, what driving do you do? Like, I don't know about you, but for us, all we do really is city drive. And then when we road trip, it's a very intentional thing. Like there are definitely a lot of people, especially Southern California, who commute between San Diego and LA, or other parts of the country commuting for various reasons, or to see family on the weekend, whatever it is. But so what kind of driving do you do? How much are road trips a part of your general life, and how much is long distance driving? Long distance driving meaning, in this context, let's say something that requires you to charge.
So over 200 miles.
Over 200 miles, because that would require a charge. I'm in the Bolt groups on Facebook, and I see conversations often about people who strategize their longer trips, like the people who drive from San Diego to LA, and they just make sure to drive at 65 miles an hour, and then they can make it round trip. If they drive faster,
Okay, so they have to charge if they don't.
Yeah, if they drive faster than that, then they have to charge. And granted, it depends on what model and how degraded the battery is, whatever, because this group is, of course, people who've had Bolts for a long time. But on a brand new Bolt like this and optimum range, that's the kind of strategy you can do. So anyways, yeah, what kind of driving do you typically do? How much of it is road trips? And I don't think that this feels like a budget vehicle at all. We were certainly noticing a couple things where perhaps some cost saving was done. Like we have the bass a little up and the treble a little up. And when we had some music pumping yesterday, you can actually feel the vibration in the door. That's not really something I do much in a vehicle. I was just leaning my leg on it and I'm like, ooh, this is vibrating.
Yeah, I'm sure that's like, where they can save a little bit money here and there. But yeah, it doesn't really, like, again, going back to what I was saying, is like, it doesn't necessarily feel like there are a lot of real compromises. Like this is actually, as everybody says, it's a great value EV, but it's also just a great EV. Like I don't think you have to think of this as like, well, I can't afford X, so I'm getting this. It's sort of like, I can afford that, but I choose this, and you don't have to feel like you're losing out on something. You just have money to go on a vacation as well.
Yeah. And it's not like this is a cheap vehicle, but if this was to be your first EV or just the EV that you're looking forward to, it's a great one. I think this is excellent. The way that it feels in driving is responsive and peppy and powerful enough. So I think that it is a 0 to 60 of 6.7 seconds. And I think it's like 226 horsepower, which is fine. There are plenty of ICE vehicles that have less horsepower than that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're transferring or transitioning from an ICE vehicle, this will feel powerful enough. It is nowhere as powerful as many of the EVs that we see on the market, but how much do you need? Like, is 6.7 seconds getting onto an on-ramp on the highway, is that okay?
Oh, it's been great so far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we should head over to the highway and get some footage of that and just show you, Super Cruise, and we'll talk about that as well as just driving dynamics on the highway as well. Well, we swapped drivers, and let's see if we can get on the on-ramp.
Is 6.7 seconds 0 to 60 enough?
And I'm catching up to them, so definitely.
Yeah.
And I did floor it, but that just gives you an example. 6.7 seconds is actually pretty darn quick for most cars. It's not the fastest, not like any sports car or anything like that, but I think it's pretty darn great. And as soon as I get over here, I'm going to go ahead and turn on Blue Cruise.
Super Cruise.
Super Cruise. We do have a Mach-E, and the Mach-E is called Blue Cruise, which is similar, but different. And here, I forget, it's like it basically takes a little bit of time for it to figure out where we're at. So the way it's doing it is it's on pre-map roads. So it's using GPS to figure out exactly where we're at. And then it uses the cameras to verify that nothing has changed. So it knows exactly, like millimeter by millimeter, what this road looks like and what it should look like based off of the pre-map. And the way they do the pre-mapping is they actually send out some cars with very high definition cameras as well as LiDAR, which is basically light mapping or laser mapping of the entire road, uses those to build very high definition maps, so then the car can do a better job of knowing when curves are coming and what the curve looks like and if there's any issues like that. And I realized I did not have the system ready for doing Super Cruise. I'm going to turn it on now and turned on adaptive cruise control. There's a little icon that shows up on the screen that it's basically a steering wheel. That means that it can handle the steering. If I turn it on, I hit the button, I turn it on, and then now I'm in hands-free mode. And like I said, it's watching my eyes to make sure I'm watching the road. We're not the type that do a bunch of tests of like showing you how long you can go without looking at the road, because it shouldn't really matter. You should just be paying attention. and we don't like testing it when there's traffic around or anything like that. We're not in a safe environment to test. So anyways, we are going to let it drive a bit for us, or handle the steering, accelerator, brake. I sort of say like I'm still doing the driving. It's just handling those features of it. But I'm watching the road, making sure there's no obstacles or anything like that. A lot of these automated systems, they do great maintaining center of the lane, watching itself with traffic, but it can't always detect some of the things that we can detect as humans. So you should always be paying attention. This isn't an opportunity to like relax and not think about driving. This is what it's designed for. It's assisting me. Long-winded, rant about that. But anyways, it's actually doing a great job. Feels very smooth. We're in a construction zone. It's going a little bit slower than traffic, so I'm gonna use the little joystick thing, press up a few times, and it's increasing the speed, and feels just very smooth handling everything, including acceleration and deceleration when it detects traffic, and going through some slight curves there. Felt like it was very normal feeling compared to the way I would handle driving this.
Well, I can't believe it, but we actually did not film an outro at all for this video. I'd like to say that it's because we were having the greatest time with this car.
It was a lot of fun having it, and it's actually been a couple of weeks now since we don't have the Bolt, and we miss it. It was nice having a smaller electric SUV that we could run around town in.
Yeah, honestly, if I could get one right now without a markup, I think I would.
We just got to find a dealer that's willing to sell it to us at the price, and we're ready to go.
Yeah. This might not be a luxury vehicle, but it honestly has everything that you need. So let us know what you think about this down below. Do you like this car? Is there something else that you're interested in?
And as usual, let us know like what color is your favorite of the Bolt colors. We didn't get to play around with any but this white one, but there are actually some pretty neat colors on this. I like the light blue. What do you guys think?
The ice blue, yeah, that's really pretty. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. And if you know our other channel, then you might know this tagline, which you know what, we think is appropriate for this channel too. So just remember that whatever you drive, enjoy the ride. Bye.